All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. I am here with Little Wolf of Isataii, a black metal project based out of Los Angeles, California. Would you mind giving yourself a introduction, Little Wolf?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? So yeah, I am Little Wolf, also known as Wolfgar. I'm the main instrumentalist for the band Isataii. Definitely a two-man black metal band from Los Angeles, California. Basically, so my tribe is the Comanche people, and we're based out of there's Texas, there's a base in Oklahoma and New Mexico, also known as the Lords of the Southern Plains. And yeah, a quick rundown from Isataii.
Awesome. Yeah, it's cool. You mentioned the Comanche people. I know you're currently based out of LA, but do you get a chance to go back out there to the tribal nation?
And to the motherland. So I've been to Texas a few times. I never really never got really into got to see the res or anything like that. Not that I don't want to. I would really love to. It's just my family's from El Paso. That's as close to the lands as I'm able to get. But I would definitely one day want to go explore and just get to know the Comanches out there and just see what the metal scene and everything's about out there.
That'd be awesome. I'm out here on the Navajo Reservation, and yeah, there's just a lot of fans of heavy music around, and a lot of bands kind of spread out all over the place. And there's definitely a pretty thriving black metal scene out here too. There's a couple of bands. I think probably the most well-known one probably be like Mutilated Tyrant. Yeah, they've gotten a lot of like kind of coverage just from like kind of like the online metal press. So they're really cool. And there's a couple other ones too. There's a couple of one-man projects. Yeah, definitely. Like black cool. Metal is like just pretty thriving out here, and a lot of like kind of thrash metal bands around here. Yeah, like kind of going into like just the Comanche tribal culture. How would you say your tribal culture kind of influences like your music or just everyday life in general?
Well, growing up, I was raised really into my culture. My dad always, would talk about our people, and that's where our names came from. That's why he named me Little Wolf, because of the Comanche medicine. And I'd say with my culture, it definitely influenced my music because of the spirituality. The remembrance of the past and the warriors of the past and the leaders of the past. And I feel a strong connection that just it's something I can't really explain, but I know it comes out when I decide to pick up my instrument and just start creating songs, definitely.
And just as far as like playing music, kind of like how did you start out playing music?
I guess you could say it dated back to when I was a baby. My grandfather, on my mom's side, I guess would always like play his acoustic around me, and as a child, I was always like attracted and drawn to it. I would go up to him and just start strumming the strings out of nowhere, like not really knowing what I'm doing, but I was immediately attracted to it. And all my life growing up after that, I always kept bugging my dad, like I really want a guitar, and he was like, you got to start an acoustic first. But I was like, obviously, you've seen, my dad would play like Slayer and stuff on VHS on TV, and you see them with these like cool guitars, like Flying V's. And I was like, no, I don't want acoustic. I want that. He's like, no, I get good on acoustic first. So my grandma finally bought me my first acoustic. And before my mom, actually, I give my mom a lot of credit because my mom was the one who decided to put me in guitar classes. And once I learned my first song, which was my dad's rule, he was like, if you learn one full song, I'll buy you an electric. So that's exactly what I did. Once I learned that full song, he was like, all right, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, I know it's Kerry King from Slayer, always Mockingbird in the early days. So luckily my dad for a Mockingbird, and I've just been, raising hell ever since.
That's pretty badass. You were introduced to Slayer from your dad. That's
oh, definitely.
Yeah, I know a lot of people my age out here. I think our parents are more into like country music. And did you have like bands like growing up like before you started Isataii?
Oh, there was a few, definitely. So during middle school, I had some friends. I was really into, death metal, thrash metal. So I was getting into that, and I had some friends. We started. My very first band I ever was ever in was called Bloodshed, which was like a death thrash band. And after that, I was in a few other bands. Going into high school. The name of you, Dark Nephilim, there was Decay. There was just all these bands in high school. Just wanted to jam with people and just gaining a lot of experience, and all of that played into the band that I created. All my experience and worth it going into this. So
I was curious. I usually what I do for bands or people I talk to, I go on the metal archives, and I saw that you're kind of older bands. There was a couple of black metal projects. Cult of Odium. Is that? Like, can you tell us about that?
oh, definitely. Cult of Odium is actually my live project. Definitely before Isataii, there was Cult of Odium. It's a three-man project. We're based out of here as well, Los Angeles. Alex Rojas, my singer, John. We started that, like 2 years ago. And I think when the pandemic hit was when Cult of Odium, our singer, left the band for a little while. So that left me, kind of bandless. So I still wanted to create music. And, when the pandemic hit, there was nothing to do but just, be at home and riff. And I didn't want to let that creativity go to waste. So, I just picked up my guitar, and I had what was it, GarageBand. GarageBand definitely helped me, start creating music really fast and start putting out music really fast. And so in that meantime of Cult of Odium being on hiatus, Isataii was born. And then my singer came back recently, the beginning of this year, I think. And then we started kind of back up, started playing shows again, which is really cool because it's good exposure for Isataii as well. Because, with playing live, I can, wear the Isataii merch, and, people come up to me asking, like, oh, like, what is that? And I'll tell them, like, it's my band, my side project. And then they just get really, like, curious about it, and they look it up, and they're like, oh, wow. So the supporters of Cult of Odium started supporting Isataii, and vice versa. Isataii supporters started supporting Cult of Odium. So that's really cool that you went into the metal archives and checked that out, because not a lot of people, do that. But it's actually really informative, and lets you know a lot of background based on the musicians and the members and the bands.
Yeah, I started an account with Metal Archives, and I submit bands from this area, like the Navajo area.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I noticed like some of the bands out here don't have a page on Metal Archives, so I've been trying to submit as much as I can. It's actually kind of hard. I've got a lot of rejections. I think the people that run that Metal Archives are pretty strict, like because they like rejected a couple bands out here because they told me that this band sounds like a new metal. This band sounds like a gent band. I don't know. They're like, I was like, what the heck? Yeah. I was kind of bummed out. Like I probably got like 5 bands rejected because the people that run that site are like, I guess it's not heavy enough for them, but I've gotten a couple accepted though. So I'm definitely a big fan of it. Just, looking up bands, and also just, looking up, like you said, looking up the members and looking up the albums and reading the reviews. Like I'm just like really immersed in this stuff.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And then you mentioned that Isataii got started during the pandemic. For those who haven't heard Isataii, how would you kind of describe like the sound or aesthetic or just the overall vibe of Isataii?
So Isataii is, well, since it was a brand in the beginning, it was basically like an extension of Cult of Odium. So a lot of the style that I used in Cult of Odium, I brought to Isataii. But then with Isataii, I felt like from the beginning to where it is now, it kind of developed into its own thing. And that's what I'm really happy about. Is it started off as a very like, Finland style, riffage. and drum beat, same thing. But then I started noticing just a transition between that to you know um, more modern style black metal, like some from Norway, some from Sweden, just because I started listening to a lot of different bands. And when I started Cultivodium, it was mainly Sweden, Finland bands like Satanic Warmaster and Stargeist. And as I progressed with Isataii, I started listening to more like Horna, and there was Behexen, there was just a lot of like Hell Militia. There was a lot of bands that I started really paying more attention to, and it kind of helped broaden Isatai's sound and differentiate Isataii from Cultivodium. So definitely, it's primitive. It's very raw. But it's also very aggressive and very atmospheric. Isataiii is, I think, the perfect blend of black metal, where you get a little bit of everything all packed into this Comanche sound from like war. I don't know. It's its own thing, and I really love where Isataii is definitely going at this point.
That's cool. Yeah, you mentioned that it's just like a Comanche like entity that's kind of using the Finnish style and kind of making it your own.
Exactly.
And then I know like kind of more, I'd say within the last 10 years, there's been a lot of like indigenous like black metal bands and projects kind of coming out. And just kind of from your own like opinion, how would you describe the connection between like black metal and like indigenous like culture and history?
That's a very amazing question, and I'm glad that you asked it, because a lot of people don't realize that the indigenous people came from a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering happened to our people, and a lot of that was due to Christianity and religion being forced upon a people that already had a set way of life and just way of believing and way of doing things, and spiritually. And for me, if you look at European bands, a lot of it was anti-Christian as well. They were burning churches out in Europe, and which I support. I support that, because religion is something that shouldn't be forced upon anyone. It should be a freedom of speech, believe in it or not. But our people, and I'm speaking on behalf of like every indigenous person who's ever been affected by religion or Christianity, our people were put into boarding schools, and were washed of their ways, and all that hatred that I feel toward the people who did that to our people definitely goes hand in hand with black metal, because black metal is a very hateful, spiritual, a very mournful music, and I couldn't think of anybody better to be playing this kind of music than indigenous people. I feel like indigenous people, this is their place, this is their music to definitely be part of, and not to give into the stigma that it's only European, because we're out here, indigenous people, doing it, and we have every right to do it, because our history definitely reflects into the black metal scene that, well, I'd say that I'm trying to create these days, for sure.
Yeah, I would say, I think you mentioned this too, but it's just it can be really like spiritual too. Like there's a lot of black metal bands that kind of use that are that worship like nature, that worship the mountains and the rivers and streams. And I think in Navajo like culture, like we pray to like the sacred mountains, and we pray to our water.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that there's a spiritual aspect to that, and I think out of all the like extreme music styles, I think black metal really kind of has that connection. Like I know like death metal is just kind of more like aggression and more like anger, and with like grindcore and punk, it's more like politics. But yeah, for sure, I think like black metal can touch on like the spiritual aspect as well as like the anti-religion and like just that expression of anger.
Just piggybacking real quick, So black metal, that's the beauty about black metal, and that's the beauty about the connection between black metal and indigenous people is the fact that, as much as it can be anti-religion and it could be, hateful, there's also beauty in it, with the music that gets inspired by nature and, just honoring the earth and paying respects to the earth as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. I really like that. I was gonna say even in our kind of like current society too, there's just a lot of stuff that Native people are still kind of, fighting for, just like our, rights to our land and water and religion. But I heard your interview on Heavy Metal Citadel, and you kind of mentioned like alcoholism within the Native people. Like, yeah, it's just there's just a lot of like stuff that Native people are still going through, still kind of like battling. And I think, yeah, substance use and alcoholism is probably one of the biggest ones around here.
Well, if you don't mind me saying, I also wanted to add that, me as being an indigenous black metal musician, I'm actually, sober, and, I don't give into substance abuse and none of that, because of the fact that I know that, dating back to, ancient times, the substances were a way to kill off our people and, get us dependent on government resources rather than our original resources that we had around us for free, not having to pay anything for it. And for me, being sober, a sober Native man, I think that black metal is definitely a way of expression to channel anything negative into something productive, something more positive, a positive outlet, basically.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I work here on the reservation and in like in a like healthcare field, and yeah, just seeing people like battling alcoholism and just the effects it has on their body. And not only that, the family dynamic gets affected. The kids see like addiction at a young age, and then it's kind of like almost like passed down, and they kind of see that it just gets normalized at a young age to the point where when they grow up, it's just something that they do. And it just kind of keeps having that perpetual effect on generations.
Yeah, I believe that our people definitely can express our pride in our native culture, and really understand that it's just a substance. It's not something that can take over you physically. Although some people do let it, it's just a substance. It's an inanimate, lifeless substance that, honestly was a weapon in the old days, but nowadays I feel, through music and through artistic expression, the indigenous people could definitely overcome that, because, indigenous people are very, artistic and spiritual and talented people out there. It's just, we have to just put more emphasis on that rather than the stereotype that there is out there.
And then, you mentioned the music that you make, it kind of keeps you connected with your culture, but are there any other ways that you kind of like, stay in touch with your culture? I mean, like, I don't know if there's like any like cultural centers out there in your area.
So yeah, as far as keeping up with culture outside of the band, even though the band is a major outlet for me to put out into the world and to reach like a mass amount of people, to create awareness of indigenous black metal, there is powwows. There's always powwows, and that's a way to still be part of people and be connected to society and to fellow indigenous people as well. So yeah, that definitely helps for sure.
My family kind of took me and my siblings out to powwows when we were younger. So I think I never really asked them, why, but I have a feeling, yeah, it was sort of like, just to keep us connected and keep us, pretty much have us have that connection to other people. And because we grew up like in a area of Arizona that's primarily like, white people, and so kind of like on the weekends we would go to like powwows and kind of like interact and socialize with other Native people. So that was for sure kind of helped us growing up. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I've only visited LA a couple times, and yeah, I haven't gone back in a while. I think the last time I went, I was like in high school on like a field trip. But yeah, I know like with major cities, there's usually like Native American like centers that that usually have resources for people who live in the big areas like LA.
Yeah, so there was a center that my family used to take us to when we were very young, for like tutoring and doing homework, and also to socialize with a lot of other Native kids. It's called I don't know if it's the California Indian Center or something Indian Center, but it was ran by Phil Hale. And yeah, because Phil Hale is really connected to the Native community as well. Um, so right there, we were able to also meet, fellow kids, who were growing up and around the same age as us. And, I see some kids there with like Slayer shirts, Morbid Angel shirts. And that was cool because it made me feel like, what, like as much as you feel like you're the only one because, that's all you're really, seen as. But no, it's like when you go to these centers and you see kids that are also into the same music as you, it makes you feel like, what, there is a place for Indigenous people in metal. It's just I feel like it needs to reach like a mass amount of people, and that's why I'm glad there's like Spotify and social media now, because instead of going to powwows, also you can also go, go on there and check out the history of these bands and the info on where they're from. So there's different multiple ways to get connected, you know, in through Indigenous people, with social medias and going to these centers. But so yeah, I definitely support the centers as well.
Yeah, that's cool. That you're able to kind of meet people out there, or see people out there that are into heavy music. Out here, it's mostly country. Like it's like big time, like
Yeah.
country and rodeo, and like people here like are ranchers and they have cattle and stuff like that. So metal is kind of like still kind of like not fully accepted around here. It is starting to get more accepted. I noticed. I think as like people get older, like especially people now like my age, like we're gonna get older, and hopefully if we can get become part of like the tribal infrastructure, we can at least kind of like normalize it to the rest of like the tribal council and government and stuff like that. What are there any like future projects coming up this year, or any live appearances coming up for Isataii?
So for Isataii, we don't plan on becoming a live band anytime soon. Me and my partner right now, the guy who's doing vocals for me, his name's Tyler Lopez, also known as Lord T. We're both in a pretty good place with Isataii, where we're happy just creating music, putting out releases, and just trying to get as many supporters as possible, trying to reach out to as many fans as we can. And yeah, so we're doing pretty good with this project right now. And I believe that the obscurity of the keeping it obscure with digital releases and through social media and through CDs and physical releases, I believe that keeps the mystique of the band. I feel like with this band, I don't want to really do any live appearances. Maybe in the future, maybe one or two pop-ups here and there, but I think we're pretty good where we're at right now as far as just releasing and doing these interviews as well. And because we seem to be working with reaching a mass amount of people.
The Invoking in Darkness release came out this year. I saw on Bandcamp there's going to be a release. Is it the Horns of Power? Is that an album or an EP or?
Horns of Power was an EP, and actually on that album, my brother was actually doing vocals. Randy Galarza, also known as Lord Cedar.
Any upcoming EPs for this year, or any like future splits or demos?
So we just actually, after Invoking in Darkness, me and Tyler Lopez released an EP over at Bandcamp called Forever Cursed. And that's 5 brand new songs that people can check out and see where our current sound is. And as far as splits goes, we're definitely, open for collaboration with a lot of people. Um, I'm I'm really hoping to collaborate one day with Blackbird because he's another guy who has the same message and is creating a pretty good name for the indigenous people. So to do a split with that guy would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's doing really well. I mean, I spoke to him recently, but yeah, he was just saying he's getting a lot of kind of like just a lot of exposure, or the like internationally, and here in the US as well. So yeah, that'd be sick to have like anything, like a compilation or a split with you and Blackbird. And then I was just kind of curious, with your recent releases, how is the reception to those? Have you received any like feedback from any major outlets or any international like listeners?
So as soon as Invoking in Darkness came out, Isataii got a lot of supporters from around the world. There was people from Germany ordering CDs and shirts. There was people from North Dakota, from Sweden, from Hungary, from Greece. It's just I didn't expect an indigenous band to be reaching so many places, but these people found us and they became fans, and I'm just happy that people are learning about us, and I'm hoping that this is going to open people's eyes to indigenous black metal and just create a whole nother movement of black metal that's going to go down in the history books.
You mentioned Blackbird. Are there any other bands or music you want to like recommend to listeners?
So I'll just use this time to throw some shout outs out there. For sure, I want to shout out, of course, Blackbird. I want to shout out Cults of Odium, Wither Moon, Son of Leviathan, Sharon Kruk. These are a lot of cool upcoming black metal bands. And check out anything from Plague Demon Records, Blasphemous Creations from Hell Records, Adiron Black Mass Records definitely always puts out some really good stuff. So anything from them, I would highly recommend. And these labels are really cool. Those bands are really cool, and definitely keeping the spirit alive. Let me see. Yeah, that's just basically it. So those are the main outlets, so that anybody who's listening right now, they take that down. You go on the websites, you go on your social medias, you're bound to find some great things.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I honestly just been kind of listening to a lot of like a lot of the people I talk to on here. I kind of listen to. So I've been listening to a lot of Isataii and some Pontley and Blackbird lately. One band I would like, I'm pretty sure you would really appreciate, 6 Million Dead from Phoenix. They're the black and death metal band from Gila River, Pima Reservation. They're really cool.
Oh, awesome. Definitely. I'll definitely check those out.
Cool. Those are all my questions. Thank you again for talking with me.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm very honored to be part of this, and can't wait to hear it when it comes out.